You know, right now, as you're listening to this, there's this incredible machine inside you, working hard, under constant pressure. And no, it's not your heart or your brain. We're talking about your lungs, your own personal gas exchange system. So today, we're going to dive into how it works, what happens when it's compromised, and most importantly, how we can make it stronger.
So, let's kick things off with a bit of a puzzle. An inhaler, a cigarette, and a treadmill. I mean, they seem totally unrelated, right? Well, stick with me because by the end of this, you'll see exactly how they all connect to this one amazing system in your body.
Okay, let's meet the hero of our story today, what we're calling our breathing machine. The more scientific name is the gas exchange system. And really, you can think of it as the engine room of your body. And believe me, it is running around the clock.
Basically, its main job is this constant life-or-death swap. It brings in the oxygen that your cells are screaming for, and in return, it kicks out the waste product, carbon dioxide. It's a simple trade that you do about 20,000 times a day without even thinking about it, and it is absolutely essential for, well, for everything.
Okay, so that's how it's supposed to work. But what happens when this perfectly tuned machine gets pressure from the inside? Well, that brings us to our first scenario, asthma. This is a condition where the body's own airways literally start to close in on themselves.
So, what is asthma, really? Well, it's a chronic condition, and it zeroes in on the bronchioles. Think of these as the tiniest, most delicate little tubes deep down in your lungs. When they get irritated, it creates a massive bottleneck that messes with your entire ability to breathe.
So when an asthma attack happens, it's like a 1-2 punch. First, the muscles wrapped around those little airways squeeze super tight. That's constriction. And at the exact same time, the inside of those airways gets all swollen and irritated. That's inflammation. It's a double whammy that dramatically narrows the path for air.
Think about it like this. On a normal day, your airways are basically a wide-open, multi-lane superhighway. Air just cruises in and out, no problem. Super smooth, no traffic jams, just effortless flow.
But an asthmatic airway? It's a completely different story. Yeah, that superhighway, it suddenly turns into this clogged-up, single-lane side street during rush hour. And to make things even worse, your body starts pumping out extra mucus, which just gums up the works even more. You can see why it gets so incredibly hard to breathe.
Okay, so asthma is an attack from the inside. But what about attacks from the outside? Well, that brings us to our next scenario, smoking. This is like a direct chemical assault that just wears down the whole system over time.
You know, tobacco smoke is this nasty cocktail of chemicals, but we're going to focus on the three main villains here: nicotine, tar, and carbon monoxide. Each one does its own special kind of damage.
And this is where you can really see the damage. In healthy lungs, you've got these tiny little hairs called cilia, and their job is to constantly sweep out gunk and mucus. But tar, that sticky black stuff in cigarettes, it basically paralyzes them, so all that mucus just builds up. But it gets worse. Tar also starts to literally dissolve the walls of the tiny air sacs, the alveoli. This is where the magic of gas exchange happens. When you lose that surface area, it's a condition called emphysema.
Then you've got the invisible enemy, carbon monoxide. This gas is sneaky. It's an imposter. It latches onto your red blood cells way, way better than oxygen can, like over 200 times better. So it basically hijacks your body's oxygen delivery service. The trucks are still running, but they're carrying the wrong cargo, meaning less oxygen gets where it needs to go.
And hey, here's a quick, kind of shocking fact. The impact isn't just inside your body. Cigarette butts are the #1 most littered item on the entire planet. Just think about that for a second.
All right, after all that doom and gloom, let's switch gears to something positive. Let's talk about our third scenario, exercise. This is where you get to put your breathing machine under pressure, but in a good way, forcing it to get stronger, to upgrade itself.
The second you start exercising, your body knows. It senses that carbon dioxide building up in your blood. And its first reaction is super simple. Just breathe faster. So your breathing rate goes up to try and blow off that extra CO2 and pull in more precious oxygen for your muscles.
Right, but just panning isn't going to cut it. Your body needs to be smarter. So it also increases your tidal volume. That's the actual amount of air you pull in with every single breath. You start taking these bigger, deeper breaths to really maximize that gas exchange.
And here's where the real magic happens over the long term. If you exercise regularly, your body starts to adapt.
It literally builds more tiny blood vessels, more capillaries, all around those little air sacs. This is a process called capillarization. It's like your body is building more on-ramps and off-ramps for oxygen, making the whole system faster and way more efficient.
So let's pull all this together. We've looked at what happens when the system is under pressure from the inside, from an outside attack, and from a positive push. Let's put them all side by side and see the big picture.
This table just lays it all out so clearly. You've got asthma, which narrows and clogs the airways, basically creating a traffic jam. Then there's smoking, which is a demolition job. It wrecks the cleaning system and the exchange surface, while also poisoning your blood. And then you have exercise. It does the complete opposite. It strengthens your breathing muscles and makes the whole system a high-performance machine.
And this brings us right back to that first question, right? The inhaler, the cigarette, and the treadmill. Now it all makes sense. They're all powerful tools that directly interact with your breathing machine. One is for managing a problem, one is for causing a problem, and one is for building a solution. So the final question really is for you. This amazing system is working for you 24/7 right this second. How are you going to choose to support it?